taken race wins in both of the previous 2 events, one yesterday, one earlier today, and he's the man on pole position as well going into this 3rd race of the weekend, and he is now the championship leader as well. Let's look at the grid. Harry Foster and Steve Roberts are on the front row. 5 wins plays 4 second places between those 2 drivers, and Matt Armstrong, a triple winner, will line up 3rd. Charles Clark is 4th on the grid. He was the championship leader up until the end of that earlier race today. Starting 5th, Toby Trice, and 6th on the grid is Mike Price, who had a win in the AM category in race 2 earlier on in the day, but he's a late addition to the championship, so he doesn't score points. Carl Cavers is the AM championship leader. Callum Davis lines up alongside, and again, he's new this weekend, doesn't score points. Jason Pelosi and John White are on the 5th row of the grid, and it's Rupert Laslett who will round out the order, having put himself into the gravel up at Druids on the 1st lap of race 2. So all of these cars, the GT4 Club Sport variant of the 718 Cayman, they are cars that are all the same but run by different teams, so it's down to you as a driver, down to your engineers to get the best out of the 3.8 litre 6-cylinder mid-mounted boxer engine car, 425 horsepower, 6-speed PDK gearbox that's optimised for racing purposes. Fixed rear wing, doors made of a natural fibre composite material. They've got front splitters, rear diffusers. They weigh in at about 1,400 kilos. They are serious bits of kit. You can race them in this. You could race them, if you wished, in other events. You could take them as a track day car. And if you're an AM wanting to race a Porsche, they're great little cars to go and enjoy yourself with. If you are a career racing driver looking to build a career in GT racing specifically, it's a great starting point. You can learn about these, then go to the high-profile GT4 championships, whether it's in the UK or internationally, and then progress to GT3. Or, of course, if you've got your Iron Carrera Cup GB, which is the pinnacle of Porsche GB's motorsport portfolio, then, again, this is a really good way to learn about the nuances of Porsche racing. So, to pole position comes then the car of Harry Foster. This, as I've been saying, is the man that won both races this weekend. He drives for the Team Parker Racing squad, Stuart Parker's team, and brother Louis, winner of this year's American Formula 4 2000 Championship. He's got, of course, his father's pedigree as a touring car and GT racer. Steve Roberts, former Formula Ford racer, BMW champion, Ginetta Super Cup front runner, 2nd on the grid, yet to win. He's come so close. 4 second places have gone his way, and let's see whether he's going to be able to finally overcome that as the lights go out then when the race gets underway with another demon start by Harry Foster on the run down now to Paddock Hill Bend. On the outside line, Charles Clark, again, like in race 1, not making the best of getaways as they now make that run up the hill. Heading into the braking zone now. Clark on the outside line, tries to fight back against Toby Trice. The AMs are side by side as well. It's a bit like a rolling start in the background. But Harry Foster leads Steve Roberts there. Charles Clark dives up the inside and gets ahead of Toby Trice as they drop into Graham Hill Bend. But Trice tries to get back up on the inside line, can't do it, goes to the outside. So the order is Foster ahead of Roberts. 3rd is Matt Armstrong. 4th is Charles Clark. 5th is Toby Trice. So you've got 5 times a winner, Foster. Roberts yet to win. Armstrong has had 3 wins. Clark has had 3 wins. Trice yet to win. They are the 5 in the pro class, and they're together then as they make that run down towards Hawthorns for the first time. Into the braking zone, swoop through the right-hander. At the back of the pack is John White with his blue car. John, inveterate Porsche fan, very busy track day participant, but has come into racing this year as there through goes number 22. That is Carl Cavers. Now he is the man that leads the AM Championship, and after the dramas that Rupert Laslett had in the first race, there's now only 1 point between those two. Carl Cavers retired from yesterday's race, and it was a retirement for Rupert Laslett. There he is, number 5, going through in the earlier race today. As across the timing line they come with Roberts now, dropping back early in this race from Harry Foster and coming under attack from Matt Armstrong. Steve Roberts, who is aboard the Red Line racing car, Simon Leonard's team. Then behind him for Stuart Parker's squad is Matt Armstrong. Charles Clark is another of the Team Parker drivers, so it's 3 TPR cars, all run by Barry Horn, former Carrera Cup GB champion, a Caterham champion. 3 Parker cars in the top 4. But now, look, the battle pack is on for 2nd. And Steve Roberts, early in the race, having to think about going defensive. So he's losing touch with Foster. Clark looks to the inside of Armstrong, can't do it. We're on lap 2, and it's a 20-minute race. You're looking at effectively 13 laps here as the cars come out of Surtees. Mike Price, who was in the championship last year, we've not seen him up until this weekend this year, got roughed up a bit last season, but he's had a really good weekend. He doesn't score points, sadly, but he's on target for, if he can do it, a second win of the weekend, and he's trying to edge away at the moment from Carl Cavers, whose main target really in this is, of course, to score points. Charles Clark goes through in 4th, and again, as we saw in race 2 earlier on in the day, he's managing to drop at the 5th of the pros, Toby Trice. Battle on here, Rupert Laslett under attack from the Veluga run car, Callum Davis behind him, and Jason Pelosi is in the mix as well. In fact, Jason Pelosi is the man behind, because that means Callum Davis has got past Rupert Laslett. Now you see Housy's gone by, so Rupert Laslett dropping back a spot, but he is, of course, coming up from the back of the grid. So some of the places he will have gained off the line. Now, as the natural pace of cars starts to take into consideration the order, that's why you're seeing these more shuffles. Foster leading by 0.8 of a second from Steve Roberts, who in the first race of today was proving the point that he was good at certain parts, not so good at other parts of the lap. But Harry Foster has now done the fastest lap of the race, and he's trying to stretch that margin. The all-green car, Mike Price, goes through, leading in the AMs. Jason Pelosi towards the back of the pack. New to Porsche racing this season, keeping John White at bay, but Jason Pelosi, somebody that has moved into Cayman racing this year, having been in the 750 Motor Clubs Championships in seasons past, so a bit of a step up, different type of car, different type of racing, and there is Harry Foster coming towards us. Now the margin of 0.8 of a second has gone up in the first sector again on this lap. Second, third and fourth running together pretty much as they drop once more down into the right-hander of Hawthorne. Through goes Charles Clark, running in that 4th place, but ahead of him is Matt Armstrong, who is a little bit stuck. He's not been able to find a way past Steve Roberts as yet, but equally he doesn't have to totally worry about Charles Clark, because Charles isn't on his tail. The closer you get to the car in front, they're going to get a little bit hotter, so you need to think about maybe running in cool air, and only when you're utterly confident you can get the move done, then you commit to it. And you'll see that the gaps become a little bit elasticated at times. Down they come, scratch out again. Matt Armstrong turns through, accelerates from Clark curve up towards the timing line yet again, and hustling on behind him is Charles Clark. So Harry Foster here, now the new championship leader, 3 points ahead coming into this race, and that's allowing for then a couple of penalty points to be taken into account. It means that he is 1 point on the corrected scores only ahead of Charles Clark. A win here would do him a power of good. So through Druids they turn, drop downhill now. This is Graham Hill-Ben, the left-hander. Lap 4 out of 13, which is the target being worked. And the battle is on as it was in race 2 for 3rd place. Steve Roberts just able to edge away when Matt Armstrong, and there he is in 3rd place, has to think about defending. Harry Foster, though, comes towards us. Charles Clark last time, there he is, 4th in the orange and white and black car, did the fastest lap of the race. And in the AMs, that gap, I would say, is coming down as well. Mike Price now being caught just a touch by Carl Cavers. So that margin down slightly, heading into the right-hander of Hawthorne. In the background, Toby Trice, who stepped up from Ginetta Racing this season. Toby very quick in those cars. As game on here, Rupert Laslett tries to find a way back past Callum Davis, goes to the inside, tries the outside, gets roughed up, squeezed off the road into the gravel, and Rupert Laslett just avoids the barriers on the outside of Westfield. That was very close indeed, but it has now dropped him to the very back of the pack. So the Raceway Motorsport car continues. It may have scooped up a whole load of grass that's going to make that rather hot. We'll see, but can't imagine as the trim trails off the back of it, the Rupert Laslett is very impressed with Callum Davis's move. Let's have another look at it, because he'd gone from one side of the road to the other. Trying the outside line at Westfield is brave. I think in fairness, though, Callum Davis clipped the curb and that forced the car out wide. Laslett was there. There wasn't really anything that could be done at that point. But yeah, you see Callum Davis was off the road as well. But I think it was thumping the curb on the inside that sent him out wide. Rupert Laslett just, I think, did skim the barrier, but millimetres, it was a skim as he bounced his way back onto the circuit. So race leaders are on lap number 5, and Rupert Laslett up from the back of the grid finds himself down at the back of the grid yet again. He's going to do all the hard work all over again. he rather needs a safety car here to throw him a lifeline, but I'm not suggesting for a moment we're going to get that as the gaps now start to open out. Mike Price goes through, regular Porsche racer, came out of the club championship a few years back. The Armstrong-Clark battle has raged on pretty much all season, and here it is again for third place. Now, at the start of the year at Silverstone, it was for the lead. They traded the wins that weekend on the Grand Prix circuit. Here, it's for third place, showing how much pace Steve Roberts has found, as much as Harry Foster has over the course of the season. But Charles Clark does have that fastest lap of the race to his name. In fifth in the background, Toby Trice, the winner of the Ginetta GT Academy last year, new to Porsches this season, and campaigning to raise awareness for infertility through motorsport is Toby Trice. So he comes now up to the right-hander of Clark curve. He's still not able, I'm afraid, to buy back that time against the Armstrong-Clark fight. Charles Clark goes through. Dad Steve, a regular racer in British GT a good number of years ago, and a tighter line employed through paddock by Clark, but little good does it seem to do him. Still, Matt Armstrong has the advantage as they head in towards Druids, heading towards halfway. This 20-minute race, not a set number of laps. The flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line once. Those 20 minutes are up, and as they come downhill yet again, the lead gap is 1.7 seconds. Now, it was 1.2 the margin at the end of race 2, but already Harry Foster has got away. Steve Roberts was able to live with him a little bit more easily in the second race, but Harry Foster just gets better and better and better. The longer he spends racing in these cars, the more experienced he becomes, the stronger he gets. Debuted in the championship at the back end of last year at Silverstone, immediately on the pace. At Donington, I should say, at the end of last year, immediately on the pace. There is Charles Clark, trying to fight back in the championship, but only fourth. It's not only bad news that he's behind Harry Foster, but he's got another 2 drivers between him and Foster that he can't find a way past. So he's giving away chunks of points here. Steve Roberts, who is running second on the road, fourth in the point standings, but of course yet to win. If he gets a win, that's going to help him no end. But for whatever reason, that red line car, or Steve Roberts, or the collective between them, just has not unlocked something in the way that Clark and Armstrong and now Foster have done over the course of the year. Croft was looking like it was Steve's best chance when he got roughed up by Harry Foster, for which Harry got a couple of penalty points, but sad to say, the win didn't come there. Through paddock goes Clark in the orange car. And again, Matt Armstrong has to think about defending as they turn their way up towards the hairpin, break for the corner, turn in. And the run downhill with the lead gap being 1.9 seconds. So seemingly now, Harry Foster is going to be able to drive clear. Out of Graham Hill Bend comes Charles Clark. He edges towards the inside of the road and thinks about it. But again, there's not the absolute commitment to having a dive. Now, that might be because he's fearful of doing it as Mike Price goes off the road. The AM leader makes a real mess of Surtees, loses the class lead to Carl Cavers. Now, what was all that about? It just looked as though Mike Price arrived too rapidly, couldn't get down the gears in time and slow the car down, ran onto the grass rather than try and turn in and risk a spin, let the car flow, sorted it out and carries on, but he's given away the lead of the class. As for Charles Clark, is he thinking points and keeping out of trouble? Well, now that he's lost the championship lead, I would suggest he needs to be a little bit more aggressive and really force the issue against Matt Armstrong, who in turn is closing on the back of Steve Roberts. So second, third and fourth together now as they come into Stirling's. But that Mike Price moment was a very odd one. And as I say, it's cost him the category lead now in AM. Leaders into clearways, then Clark curve. Over the timing line, they all thunder. And so there going through is number 9, Matt Armstrong. He heads through the right-hander of Paddock Hill Bend. And again, certain parts of the circuit, he closes up onto the back of Steve Roberts. Other parts of the circuit, he loses pace and the gap widens. Now, that's the pros all going through. Here is the new AM leader. So that's Carl Cavers ahead of Mike Price. Carl has a championship to think about, whereas Mike Price doesn't. So he can throw caution to the wind now to try to catch up yet again as they accelerate up towards Druids. Carl Cavers got a podium result in AM last year and in 2020, the first season that this championship ran. Came out of Ferrari racing. Carl, who works in the video games industry, to his credit, are motorsport titles such as Forza Motorsport 7 and Dirt 2 and Toka Race Driver 2. He's a very handy race driver himself now. As you look at the fight for third again, Charles Clark on the back of Matt Armstrong. And every time he gets a little bit more committed and Armstrong has to defend, so it takes the pressure off Steve Roberts. So again, you get this elasticated situation. So nose to tail they come again. So Charles Clark tantalisingly close to the back of Matt Armstrong's car. Like I said earlier, if he's reluctant to make a move because he's thinking points, well, his championship rival leads and he's ahead of him in the standings now, so he needs to be a bit more aggressive about this, you could argue, and make a proper move against Matt Armstrong. In race 2, it looked as though he had the pace, but was waiting really to try to force a mistake out of Matt that never came. Well, it ain't coming now either, so what is Charles Clark going to do? Uphill, heading towards Druids. And again, he's close, pulls out, pulls back in again, and stays fourth. But all the time, Harry Foster is the race leader, so the win points are heading his way. He's also done the fastest lap of the race now, so it is very much advantage Foster. You get a fastest lap point as well per class, so it's the win and the fastest lap point heading in Foster's direction. Only fourth place points for Clark, who was behind in the standings anyway. The lead gap, 1.6 seconds. Last time around, Steve Roberts a little bit quicker. Charles Clark heads down into Hawthorns. And Matt Armstrong, conscious of having to defend, therefore not totally able to commit to a move against Steve Roberts for fear of leaving the door open. So there's this stalemate slightly now, second, third and fourth. Roberts turns through Westfield. To the champion in the pro class, there's £10,000 at the end of the year. There's £8,000 to the winning AM in the championship, plus the holiday for 2 to the Cayman Islands, which includes the flights and hotels from the championship sponsor. And Harry Foster has got his eyes on the holiday and the money right now because he leads the race, he leads the championship, and he will be aware of the fact that he's under no pressure. This is his race to lose. He comes up now to put 9 laps of a possible 13 in the book. Through he goes. And now Matt Armstrong starts to close on Steve Roberts. And Matt potentially is a little bit more content to get stuck in. Let's see, out of paddock they go, but he's got to cover off Charles Clark, who looks to the outside line. Steve Roberts hugs the inside, coming out of Druids now. Armstrong doesn't want to be on the outside for Graham Hill Bend. He wants the inside line diving downhill, but again, there's no opportunity there because Steve Roberts got the car in position in time and was able to cover off a move. Now Charles Clark thinks about a move, and Matt Armstrong knows about how to defend. So no change, third and fourth, although that was a little bit more committed by Charles Clark. He's on the lights as well now, so he has had 20 minutes of race 2 and nearly 15 minutes of this staring at the back of Armstrong's car. He'd rather like to see the back of something else, and that would be Steve Roberts' car in second place. So Clark on the attack, 5 minutes to go. Lap 10 we're on now out of 13 as the target into Westfield. Turn right. Climb now up through Sheen Curve out of Dingle Dell. Charles Clark takes a tighter line there. He's always a little bit more committed to the curb, but Matt Armstrong's car flows nicely and it comes out of Sterling's. Despite the pressure he's been under in this race and in race 2, he's not a locker upper, he's not a curb bouncer, he's just smooth under pressure, and Matt Armstrong soaking up the advances of Charles Clark right now, and that now sees Steve Roberts start to edge away once again as they head towards the line. Into Paddock Hill Bend yet again, 4 minutes to go, lap 11, and Clark gets it all sideways there, gets crossed up, loses time rather than gains a place, so that briefly alleviates the pressure from Matt Armstrong. But under braking, Clark comes right back at him, but because he brakes so late, he has to fight the car out of the corner, it's sideways, and the time ebbs away again. So the gap came down because he was so late on the brakes coming out the other side, so the gap opens up, and onto Cooper Straight they come now for the 11th time. And Charles Clark isn't close enough to think about making a move. Now go left onto the Grand Prix section of the circuit. Look how Steve Roberts has got away. Lead gap hovering at 1.6 seconds. Last time Steve quicker than Harry was for the race lead. Out of Hawthorns into Westfield. Charles Clark piecing together this lap then after the mistake at Druids, trying to fight back, closing as best he can. In Sector 1, the lead gap was up, only by 55 thousandths of a second, but up it was. That's Toby Trice, up from Ginetta Racing, in which he was the Academy champion last year. That's for third, where the gap has come right down. And Clark, again, is on the tail of Armstrong. He can't be any closer, surely, without making a move now. And he does have a look on the inside, but no, thinks better of it, slots back in behind. So again, despite the pace, there's almost a reluctance and a spin for Callum Davis, who goes around and finds the barrier, clangs into that. That was wrong coming out of Sheen Curve. Spun across the road, he's done damage to the furniture, he's brought some of it back on the road, tries to rejoin and almost gets himself there into a bit of strife with the opposition. But coming now down towards Clark Curve, on the outside line is Jason Pelosi, on the inside is the recovering Callum Davis, and he hangs onto the place with his elbows out. So despite the spin, despite the bang into the barriers, Callum Davis bounces back. So he ran it wide, and then it spun across the road, coming out of Sheen Curve. Over the timing line they go. Clark, again, thinks about the inside, but by the time he thinks about, yes, this might be on, it's too late. So just as he commits to a dive, he has to back out of it, and now is on the money, coming out of the corner, finally. He's almost level. Stays on the outside line, but has he got the pace to stay alongside? No, I don't think he has, and he's on the outside line anyway, so he's going to have to give way, because it would have been the longer, slower line, and I doubt it would have worked. So Matt Armstrong hangs on to third place. Charles Clark still fourth, still looking for a way past. Out of Westfield, towards Sheen Curve they come, but Clark running out of laps. It's going to be one more at the end of this, isn't it? As there, Callum Davis and Jason Pelosi touch. This, remember, is for 9th out of 11th. It's the battle not to be penultimate. They've been side by side largely since Callum Davis rejoined, and he goes through. Gets the job done, going now into Hawthorne, into Clark Curve. Comes Charles Clark. Onto the last lap comes Charles Clark. It's been the focus of attention, really, the fight for third all day, and Matt Armstrong has always been able to prevail. Through they go. Up now towards paddock, nose to tail they run, but there's nothing Clark has been able to do thus far. Tighter line out of paddock maybe, no, a mistake in fact, because as he came out of the corner he lost a length, so tight in, but I think maybe the back had a little wag on him just as he came out of the corner. It's sideways there as well, and if the car is sliding like this and he's having to work the tyres harder, that isn't going to help either. So the race leader, looking dominant up front, is Harry Foster. There are going to be 3 more races, 1 more event within the championship after this. They'll be at Donington, the October 15-16 weekend, to decide the champion, but he will go there ahead. He will go there looking very much like the form driver, and he's going to go there and will take some stopping. So as the leaders now swoop through the right-hander of Hawthorne, there is Harry Foster. The gap, again, slightly down last time, but down by next to nothing at all, really. Certainly not to a degree that's going to suggest a change for Steve Roberts' position. Yet another second place. It's going to be a 5th second of the year, not for the want of trying. And look, Matt Armstrong, having been able to just get away from Clark, closes on Roberts for second place. But Harry Foster is on target for win number 6. And what better way to go to Donington ahead in the championship, knowing that you'd absolutely blitz the weekend with 3 wins out of 3 races. Harry Foster now comes up through Clark Curve. And this could be a man we talk about for years to come in a GT environment. Harry Foster wins race 3 in the Porsche Visit Cayman Islands Sprint Challenge Great Britain. A dominant weekend, 3 races, 3 wins. And Harry Foster triumphs from Stephen Roberts in second place, Matt Armstrong third. 4th, Charles Clark. 5th, Toby Trice, and Carl Cavers here is going to win the AM battle. That's his 5th class win of the year. Carl Cavers goes through to increase his championship advantage over Rupert Laslett. Mike Price second, having been off the road earlier on. And then coming through for third of the AMs is Rupert Laslett, because Callum Davis spun himself off the road and ended up squabbling, as we'd seen, with Jason Pelosi. John White comes through to round out the order. But Harry Foster does a grand job then to win all 3 races, dominates the weekend, and goes to Donington as championship leader. So Harry Foster is the winner, again, by 1.3 seconds from Stephen Roberts, who is second. Again, Matt Armstrong third, and Charles Clark, try as he might, only 4th. Toby Trice 5th to round out the pros, but Carl Cavers wins the AMs after Mike Price sort of tried to camouflage himself on the grass in the bright green car. He was second in AM, but doesn't score points, which helps Rupert Laslett a little bit. He was third over the line. Callum Davis 4th ahead of Jason Pelosi, and then John White brings the field to a close. So down the pit lane comes the Team Parker racing car of Harry Foster, who has annihilated the opposition this weekend. He is making this championship look very much his own, but 3 races on the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Things could yet happen there to upset the order. It's not that nobody else wants to win races. Matt Armstrong and Charles Clark trying as hard as they can, but it does look like Harry Foster has hit the sweet spot. The championship officials there directing the cars into place. And so there, Harry Foster, the race winner. The margin in the end, 1.3 seconds over Steve Roberts. And then for 3rd place, it's Matt Armstrong, as, yep, Harry Foster indicates how many he's won this weekend. And that also now means that he has won more races than anybody else this season within the championship. It's 6 victories now out of the 12 rounds of the championship. That's Carl Cavers wriggling out of his car as the AM winner. Helped in part by Mike Price having his moment, but a good result for the Beluga team, that, and Carl Cavers continues to be the AM to beat. Rupert Laslett, after being edged onto the grass, not really able to fight back in the way that he would have liked. So Harry Foster it is that takes honours. Steve Roberts, Matt Armstrong 2nd and 3rd. Carl Cavers from Mike Price, from Rupert Laslett, the top 3 within the AM class. Carl Cavers there, taking off his helmet, trying to get some liquid on board if he can before he makes the climb to the podium. One of the other nice things about this championship is to see different teams coming to the fore, such as Beluga. For so many years, Porsche racing has been slightly dominated by the likes of Redline or Team Parker, but more and more of the teams, we had Into Racing, of course, doing very well, and Rob Boston Racing in seasons past. Harry Foster made a great start to lead race 3 in Porsche Visit Cayman Island Sprint Challenge GB. It was a lead he was never to lose as he dominated the field. He led through Paddock, he led up towards Druids with Steve Roberts, yet again the best of the rest as he fended off a challenge from Matt Armstrong, and Toby Trice had to give way early to Charles Clark, who made a good pass round the outside. He made it stick on the inside line into Graham Hill Bend and wriggled ahead of the Ginetta champion. And then he spent the race looking for a way past Matt Armstrong, although Trice gave him a tough time early on. Mike Price led in the AM category to begin with, chased by Carl Cavers and Callum Davis. Rupert Laslett from last on the grid trying to get past Davis, but they tangled up at Westfield, and Rupert Laslett went rally crossing and just skimmed the barrier as he came back towards the racing line. Mike Price lost his AM lead with this curious moment. Heading into Surtees, Carl Cavers went through into a class lead. He was never to lose. Mike Price coming through as his runner-up. Callum Davis had this lose coming out of Sheen Curve. Oh, so nearly caught Rupert Laslett, but he did find the barrier and battled his way to the checkered flag as Harry Foster made it 3 out of 3. He leads the championship. He is the form driver, and he heads to Donington in mid-October as the championship leader, the man to beat. For now, from Brands Hatch, though, it's goodbye.